Okay, we will reconvene back into open session at 5:49. And I'll report on action taken in closed session. By a vote of 5-0, trustees voted to release one 8-hour per day probationary classified employee effective April 22nd, 2022. That was the only action item. We move on to 4C, stipulated expulsion for student 2122A.
I'll make a motion that we accept the stipulated expulsion of student 21-22-A.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. We'll move on to D, stipulated expulsion for student 2122B.
I'll make a motion that we accept stipulated expulsion for student 21-22-B.
Is there a second? Okay, any discussion? Take it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Okay, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty for all.
Okay, we're on item number 5, comment section, comments and announcements by board members. Sandra, do you have any comments?
I just wanted to say how much fun we had at Wyandotte Academy's back to school night, open house.
Open house.
Open house. Very impressive, very impressive.
Jessica, any comments or announcements?
I recently did a spring cleaning of all of the things, and I had a box of books that had been read by my kids, and we no longer wanted them. And I didn't want to just donate them at a place that would get boxed off and shipped off and everything. So somebody suggested the free book libraries that are located at some of the school sites and throughout. And I was able to donate at Ofer. So there's several chapter books in there and kinder readers. And I just wanted to remind everybody, if you have anyone you know that's going through that, to recycle and reuse these books that you have so that kids in our district can enjoy them as well.
Great, thank you. Lisa, any comments or announcements?
You know that Shalene's been doing gymnastics for a long time now, and we did go to state. She is the #1 state vaulter of 2022
Wow.
in California, and she did place in the top 4 of all the rest of her, except for beam she placed. But there was very tough competition. Those girls did really good. It was amazing. All of our girls really excelled coming out of Orville. And also we had an Easter egg hunt on Saturday, April 16th, and we had a wonderful time. Wyandotte Academy, they, with the help of Spencer, we had them decorate the bags. And so when people came out to get bags, they got bags that were decorated by the kids from elementary schools, and it was very special. We had some that were, our niece, my nieces and nephews, they sat there and decorated bags, and, other people got to get them and stuff. And so I think it was really special. And I just want to thank Spencer for his help on that project. And, community came out. At first it was kind of hazy and we didn't know which way it was going to go. But, a lot of people came out, supported. And so we had a great time.
Wonderful. Thank you. Bill, do you have any comments or
I have
announcements?
none, thank you.
Okay. I have none at this time. We will move on to comments and announcements by administration. Dr. Holton.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Lisa Torres and her community group for inviting me to the Easter egg hunt on Saturday. And also like to thank Kathy Petak and all the staff and teachers and students at Wyandotte for assisting in that program. It was a good turnout despite the weather. All the kids had a great time, including 2 of my kids that were able to come with me. So thank you for that. Also want to share that I was able to attend the 2 open houses over the past couple of weeks, the one at Wyandotte and Oakdale Heights, and appreciate all the hard work that all of our teachers and staff put into making sure their rooms are looking great and providing a quality education for our students. So thank you.
Thank you. Andrew.
Good evening. I just wanted to take a second to give a shout out to our site administrators, Patrick, Kathy, Kimberly, Teresa, John, Lauren, and Renee. This year has been an extraordinary year. There's been a lot of demands on them from my office that have been handed to me from the federal and state governments related to COVID, collecting data, federal program monitoring, and a number of other things. And they've really tried to get in there and get that information as I needed it. And I just really wanted to thank them and say that they've been doing a great job to the board. So.
Great, thank you. Janet.
All right. First of all, I'd like to give some kudos to Amy Hubbard and Angie Marino. They presented parent training last night on bullying. Noemi Carrillo and Jeanette Story also helped support that. They had a great presentation, good feedback. Unfortunately, not very many members attended, so we're going to work on the marketing a little bit more and see if we can increase that. I do want to give you a couple updates on some committees. Our History Social Studies Committee has identified 2 different textbooks that they will pilot. They've already piloted Studies Weekly for K-8, and now we have the elementary group that is working with Studies Weekly and piloting that. Middle school is piloting TCI. We have put the textbooks in the district office so that they now are up for sunshining. Anybody is welcome to come in, preview the materials. We have survey forms to get feedback from anybody who chooses to come into the district office and look at the materials. And then we have a meeting on May 12th where we'll be getting together and determining which book we want to recommend for adoption. And we'll take all that public comment into our considerations as we make those decisions. So I do want to encourage the public to come out to our sunshine and look at our materials and look through them and give feedback. I also wanted to say that I had been working with the different tribal councils, and I was excited last week to be able to attend a tribal council meeting. We have been trying to get conversations going with them so that we can really address and support each other to increase student achievement, to look at our attendance and help improve that with working with our group. So tribal council was very helpful, and it allowed us an opportunity to have some discussion on our upcoming programs that are coming, UPK, and kind of letting them know to get their kids enrolled. I also am in the process of trying to reach out to Kevin Thompson and see if we can establish some partnerships and work on getting some connections to strategically support our African-American population as well. And for the calendar, I would like to say that we have our next parent meeting on May 17th. We're looking at doing bullying again with the focus this time on cyberbullying, because that is such an issue with our middle school kids. And we're trying to see if we can also give some tech support to parents so they can figure out how to maybe turn off the phones a certain time at night, or what they could do, what kind of controls they can work on with the phones to help them as they monitor with their kids. And we do have our History Adoption Committee on May 12th, where we'll be looking at recommending what we're going to bring forward. We have LCAP meeting, parent meeting is this week, and it is tomorrow at 5:30. Everybody's welcome to attend. It'll go to 7:45. We have the following week on the 28th, we have OCESD staff. We have certificated, classified, and administrators. Again, board's welcome to attend those meetings, 3:30 to 5:30 for LCAP. Teacher union meeting, we're meeting with the OETA on May 9th, and we'll be meeting with CSEA on May 19th to get feedback and follow up with them. We also will need to be doing follow-up with our SELPA. And we don't have that meeting scheduled quite yet, but we're working on it. And then a follow-up meeting on June 2nd for anybody who wants to listen to the reading of the full LCAP, because that is part of the requirements, that we let them see a final product or one that we'll be bringing to you for approval. And let's see, anti-bullying. We have an anti-bullying support team meeting that is going on. So we have at every school site 2 staff that are identified that are to help promote anti-bullying strategies. And if kids are being bullied, that they can go to these staff members. They are getting training with Todd. He's meeting with them and we're training them through our second step program. And we will also be doing some anti-bias training with them on May 9th. Jessica, our monitor, will meet with that group and do some training with them on vulnerable decision points. Okay, and then supportive school climate advisory. Our next meeting is May 18th, at 6:30. And I think, DLAC tentatively May 4th for the person that's on DLAC. We have Julian who is working with us. He's doing a great job. He does, of course, is retired as well. And so he is on a lot of vacations, but we are hoping he will be back for the May 4th meeting. And I think that concludes the announcements. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Kimberly.
We would like to thank Eric Smith, councilman. In the middle of March, he went around our school district and he did presentations for Arbor Day. And he was actually able to put in a special assembly for Sierra de Oro as well on his way to Wyandotte. He gave some information out. He read the Lorax. He talked to the students about the importance of trees and stewardship and showed a little PowerPoint. And we just want to thank him for that.
Great, thank you. All right, and now comments by the public. At this time, the board will extend an invitation to interested parties who wish to speak on matters which are school related. For those attending remotely who wish to comment, use the raise your hand button to be called on to speak. Comments or questions may also be emailed to backpack@ocesd.net. Please include your first and last name in your email. Comments and questions received will be read into the record and or addressed during the meeting. However, comments received without the sender's name will not be shared during the meeting. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes per subject. Do we have any comments by the public? None in the audience? Any online?
Not at this time.
None at this time that I have.
Okay. So we'll move on to item number 6, presentations. 6A, discipline update.
Hello, could I get Kim for you to put my screen up on? So I don't have a presentation so much as in your board packet, you would have received a draft of our OCESD discipline corrective action. So as you recall, back in December, it was brought to our attention and the community that there were some concerns over student behavior. In January, we had a teacher from Ophir who also reiterated that there were concerns. As a result, we had looked at data and we also did a survey to get input from our teachers to find out what was going on. And from that, I am in the process of creating a corrective action matrix. On the matrix, what I did is I took the main concerns that we found from the surveys with the teachers. And on the left-hand column, the main concerns came out to be looking at between surveys and other items. We have effective classroom instruction, inconsistencies of data into the Swiss system, inconsistency in enforcing behavior. Language came up as a major concern. Physical aggression, with fighting, which is mainly fighting, disruption and defiance, and school-home follow-through. So what I did is I took each of the main areas that we seem to be seeing from our surveys and various data points, and we looked at how that would look like in the classroom, in the school-wide and district-wide. So then I identified what actions that we could do that would address the concerns that were addressed through the surveys and looking at data. I presented this from I presented this with our administrators. I've talked to some teachers individually, had them go over it and look at it. I did contact the union, but we didn't get feedback from them. I contacted the DOJ monitor, Jessica. She went through it and took a look at it. Tonight, the main reason I'm bringing this forward as a draft is really to get input from you. And then after that, I'll send it to the DOJ for approval, and then I'll bring it back to the board for board approval. So in this, I'm just going to highlight some things that may be a little bit different that we haven't been doing. Some of this is really, we just need to get consistency in classroom of making sure that we have positive comments. We're supposed to be, our goal from the monitor that we have is to get 5 positive comments to every correction in the classroom. We will be looking next year at getting teachers to greet students at the door. There's some research out there that talks about how that really increases student connection, looking at high leverage practices. And a teacher had brought this up, and that is that when the kids do not follow the classroom rules, we communicate and make sure the parents are signing something off so they are aware and in the loop of getting communication on how students are doing with behavior. We did have a discussion with admin about once a month, we really concentrate on certain areas of the school and really focus in on that and make sure that we're all consistently enforcing the rules. Most of it in the classroom really is not new things. It's really just keep doing what we're doing, but we need to get more consistent at it and throughout the district. Then at the school level, when you take a look at this, one thing that we had talked about is they do Swiss team meetings at the schools, but now the thought is to make sure it's at a staff meeting. So all the staff gets to hear the report every month. Some schools were doing it, not all. Again, it's a consistency issue. We also looked at monthly campus supervisor meetings. So for that lunchtime, there is a consistency issue of getting them to follow the behaviors, the campus supervisors. They keep changing. They do need a lot of training. But if we had monthly meetings with them so that we could reinforce what the rules are, I think that would help. We have on here a school plan who tells the teachers where do they go to if the principal's too busy or is, off campus or in a meeting and the teacher needs immediate support. We need to, at every site, have a plan of who do they call and how do they get support, just in case that child who is acting up really needs some very intensive help and support at the moment. And the other item is that at the beginning of the year, the first 3 weeks of school, we have unexpected behaviors, new kids that come into the district that we haven't had a chance to get them into our routines. Of really getting a team of counselors and principal and getting a team for those first 3 weeks of really being on call so that as that child runs from the classroom or something, we really have somebody always on hand and ready to go those first couple of weeks until we can stabilize behavior. And then at the district level, some of the options that we added is one is an additional staff at every school site for lunchtime. And that would help with alternative recesses, creating a detention, because some schools only have an option of you talk with the kids, you have conferencing, you meet with the parents, and then it kind of goes to suspension. So we really do want to set up a system that can be training. It's not the old-fashioned detention, but it would be training on whatever school rules they're breaking so that they can learn better behaviors and can be more successful. We're looking at next year of we're piloting it at ISHE starting next week, I think. And that is a behavior reward system that's electronic. And it might help like campus supervisors with giving rewards out consistently and making sure that we get a positive tone on the playground rather than it always being a corrective tone, and at the same time reinforcing behaviors. We are looking at a suggestion. We post quarterly reports all the time in terms of how we are doing with our student behaviors, our ratios in terms of ethnic reports, disproportionality. We don't do I'm not doing a good job of getting it communicated to the staff meeting. So I'm posting it, I'm communicating at a broad level, but not to the site. So the suggestion was I get out to sites and really go over the data with the sites so they can see it. Another was more de-escalation training. We need more training on that. A little bit more training on CPI, which is what to do with the more extreme behaviors. And we're also looking at, we have already done it, but when we were starting this report, we were doing a contract with BCOE to see if we can get behaviors that could come in. So when we've done everything we can do and it's not a special ed kid, we need to be able to bring in a behaviors to help us with what do we do with this behavior that we haven't figured out how to get resolved. We have come up with some more extensive plan of what to do with certain behaviors, because it seems to be a question on when there's bad language. How do you handle it? So we are working on coming up with a module like this, where at the middle school, first offense for language, this is what we do. Second offense, this is what we do. And we have a range in there. And then what we will do is take this matrix down to what do we do for 4th and 5th grade? What do we do for the littles, because we would respond differently for them. So we're trying to do it so that it addresses the different grade levels. And then probably the last thing that I would say is we really want to do a lot more family outreach, but we really do have to figure out how to target it so we can get good attendance. We want to do a lot of training with behavior, how to help parents with love and logic, how to do conflict resolution. And we need help and support in figuring out how to do that so that we can train all of our kids to use words more as a way to resolve conflict. So any suggestions?
No suggestions. I just
Okay.
wanted to kind of a little bit of clarification. So when Janet talks about Swiss, that is our discipline data system. So when she says we're putting into Swiss, that is the system where we log all our discipline, and it's a computer program that then disseminates, when it happened, where it happened, how severe it was, and then it spits out data so that we can kind of pinpoint where our troubled areas are and what time of days are our most severe, so that we can start targeting, where and when that behavior is happening, and then we can provide, feedback and support, in those areas. The one thing that I wanted to share, first of all, thank you very much, Janet. This is very extensive. But I also want to let you know that a lot of these things that are listed here are not new to us. A lot of our schools and a lot of our teachers and staff implement these on a daily basis. But what we are finding that we're not as consistent from a site to site and as a district as a whole. And so our goal is to identify all the major pieces and then provide this to everyone so that we're all on the same page all of the time, so that we can continually to build a strong culture of respect and behavior in our district. So thank you very much, Janet.
Mm-hmm. So what I would like to do is see if you have any feedback or comments. I know every group I go to, I add to my matrix, it gets bigger and bigger. Any comments or any feedback?
The only question I had was concerning the immediate call for help as soon as situation begins to escalate, whether or not you had any kind of a rough idea of how that would play out.
So on that, I think what they would do is identify a go-to person when the principal is doing a classroom observation or is unavailable. So I think that what each site will do is just really come up with somebody who could have availability to leave an area right away. And it may be time of day. So like at Stanford, they have a wonderful teacher who works with the kids on behavior, but that doesn't start until noon. So from noon on, she may be the go-to person. In the morning, it could be that their counselor is there, or they have to identify a buddy, somebody. So every site will need to sit down and plan out what that would be and keep it pretty simple, because when that call goes to the office, they need to know exactly who they're going to call and pick up.
And as far as disseminating, I I know, training points of interest to parents. I know some
Mhm.
parents are rather reticent to take any advice.
Fair enough.
May explore multiple ways. I remember when my kiddos were coming up, the monthly newsletter was always of great interest.
Oh, okay. Mhm. Like a suggestion each month. I've seen.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to expand a little on that communication piece with parents.
Mhm.
Specifically for language barrier, as I understand it, that there's a couple of schools that are required to have translations of notes that come home. But it seems like we could do better with that as far as across the board, across the district, as that there are parents out there that are non-native English speakers. And if we want to do better at reaching our parents, then we need to do better at getting the information to them in their language so that they can understand what's going on.
Mhm.
Because if they're trying to get it secondhand or trying to figure it out from an English form, they're not going to get as much, not going to get the accurate information that will be as valuable to them. But also in verbal. So I'm wondering if messages that go home, those shout outs or whatever they are that go out automatically through the phone, are those translated?
Mhm.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
All right. So just making sure that we're communicating as effectively as we can with
Mhm.
all of our parents. I'm also curious, you mentioned that you sent it to the union, but didn't get any input.
I called the union, or no, I emailed and asked if they wanted to get together and take a look at it and give feedback.
Okay. And was that OETA or did you also connect with CSEA?
I did not connect with the classified on this one.
Okay.
And that's a good point. You know what? I will make sure I do that before I go to the next one because they too always have great insight.
Yeah, because they're dealing
Yeah.
with the student problems on
Yes,
a
they
daily
are.
basis as well. Yes. And so because I asked about union, I said, okay, if I take a hand, yes.
Beth, can you come up to the mic? Nobody can. I can hear you, but
But
on
the people watching
people watch it
online.
later can't hear it.
Yeah.
Is it on?
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that she did send the email and I replied that it felt that that should be something that should be brought to a staff meeting where all the teachers could go. It wasn't just something that I should look at and say, here's what I would do.
Right.
That was my suggestion, was to take it to teachers at the school site and let them review it there.
Thank you. And so the teachers that you did connect with, those were just individuals, not necessarily organized representatives from all the school sites?
Well, I took it to Curriculum Council, which would be a member from every school site. And then I also went to a couple of staff that I know work very effectively with the discipline. And so, and they have a lot of experience. So I went to them as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other comments or questions? All right. Thank you for all that work, Janet.
Mhm.
Appreciate it. All right. We will move on to item number 7, public comments on action items. The board will extend an invitation to interested parties who wish to speak on items that are listed on the agenda. For those attending remotely who wish to comment, use raise your hand button to be called on to speak. Comments may also be emailed to backpack@ocesd.net. Please include your first and last name in your email. Comments received that pertain to items listed on the agenda will be read into record during this time. However, comments received without the sender's name will not be read. The Brown Act does not allow the governing board to discuss or take action on any item that is not posted on the agenda. Do we have any comments or questions from the room? Online?
No, we do not.
Okay, any emails?
None.
None? Okay, great. We will move on to item number 8, consent agenda. Any questions on the consent agenda?
Spencer, I do have one question.
Please.
I noticed that several students from Golden Feather were coming into our district. What's their situation?
So I haven't met specifically with those family members, but when districts, or excuse me, students from other districts are looking to come in, as long as we have room for those students, we're happy to have them. What we have seen happen is that some of those students have been coming to our school, and now they want to stay in our school, and so that we're kind of catching up with the paperwork and saying, oh, you need to fill out your information, because they were displaced at one time, and at that time we didn't really bother with it, but now it's going to be more of a long term, so we're requesting that they do it formally.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Okay, item number 9, new business, approve affidavit of governing board members.
This is the J13 request. If you've heard J13, I'm sure Sandra is very familiar. When you close a school down, the state has a mechanism for you to recover the ADA you lost. This J13 application is for the days we closed Wyandotte and Central Middle School due to COVID outbreaks. I'm not 100% certain they'll approve it, but we're certainly going to apply for it.
By closing the school down, he doesn't mean close it down permanently, just for the
Right,
day.
for the duration of, I think it was a few days.
We had 9 days at Central and 5 days at Wyandotte.
Right, and those decisions were made in conjunction with our nurse. And they represent, there was a material decrease in ADA on those days, even though we had independent study going. So we're trying to recover that ADA.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve the affidavit?
So moved.
Second? Okay, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Okay. Item B, approve revised administrative regulation 1312.3.
So this evening, we are back again with the uniform complaint. So as you recall at the last board meeting, I talked about that we had the State Department, we had a FPM, Federal Program Review, and they came in and they reviewed all of our documents, and there was some language in there that they wanted changed. So as a result of that, then of course we need to go back to the DOJ, and then they have to approve it on top of the DOJ or on top of the State Department. So as you recall, we were in a time crunch. We had to have at least the State Department approval approved last month. Now I've had a chance to go back to the DOJ, and they've had a chance to look at it all. I think we're good to go for a bit, knock on wood. And so I'm asking the board for approval. You can see the changes were at the very back that they were talking about. Mostly it had to do with preschool. And so anyway, so any questions that you have or comments? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, no, let's see, this is an action item. So is there a motion on the floor to approve administrative regulation 1312.3?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, item C, consultant agreement with Muiman Consulting.
So next year, we'll be focusing on doing training on restorative practices. And part of the restorative practices is to do community building circles and then also to do repair circles. And in the process of doing this, I was out looking for presenters of who could do that. And then in talking with 2 people from our district, they had really highly recommended that we go through this one international organization that they had the best trainers. So in doing that, I tried and found out that they were all booked. And so then I started reaching out for other ways. This was back in January. So then I started reaching out for other possible presenters. And one of the presenters I found was Muiman Consulting. And what I liked about her is she has a strong presence on YouTube and does a lot of videos. She also does some follow-ups. So we can do some trainings and a lot of ongoing follow-ups. So in this consulting agreement, what we wanted to do is come in and train the administrators and a few teachers at each school site or staff at each school site on how to do the repair circles. And that's when a problem occurs, there's a misbehavior and there's harm done. And so that will happen a lot of times after suspensions and whenever there's behavior issues that have occurred. So we will train in the summer on how to do that. And then she will come back again and she will help with training with the staff of helping them understand and know how to do the community circles. And that's where you do a lot of the building of relationships and you really get a positive interaction with the kids, and she'll do training for that. And then she'll come back a couple of times to do additional training, follow up, answer questions. We figured a half a day per site. So the sites can figure out what kind of a schedule they want with her, what their need is, so we can customize it. And then she's also going to be available for some on-demand consult hours, so that if we have issues, we can give her a call, or if we have a difficult repair circle that we want to do, we can call her and she could lead it via Zoom. So she would also help lead something really difficult if we needed to be able to watch and observe and learn some more. So it's an ongoing relationship that we'll be doing with her. She did end up being trained with the company that our teachers wanted us to go with. So that's the good news about that. We will also, they'll only train so many at a time. So we're also reaching out and seeing if we can get 2 more trainers that will come in and help with some of the training, but she will do the bulk of it and she'll do all the follow-up for the school year. So any questions? So for the administrator trainings, they're the last week of July. And last year we did an admin retreat where we really did about 3 days of training. So it will be those 3 days. So the staff that would come back would get paid, but it would be optional. I mean, they would have to agree to come back and do that training. And then when we get into August, the goal was to do it the first 2 days because we have staff development training days. There are 2 days we're working with the union to see if we can get an agreement. So some staff could come in early and they would do the training. And then as a result of that, depending on how we get that negotiated, we could give them an extra day to just work in the classroom. It all depends on how we get it negotiated. So that has to be addressed. And then everything else is during the school year. And during school time too. So no night stuff.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, this is an action item. So is there a motion to move forward with the consultant agreement with Muiman Consulting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. All right, item number D, review quarterly report of district compliance with Ed Code Section 35186, uniform complaint procedures.
So this is for the board to review. And if you look at the uniform complaint procedures report, there were no uniform complaints in this quarter.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 10, business and finance, review 21-22 consolidated application winter data submission.
Again, this is a review item. Twice a year, I bring the consolidated application to the board. The first time is an action item where we're applying for federal ESSA, used to be NCLB funds. This is just the report out of how the funds are expended. Also, because the federal government has a real good sense of humor, they give us our final allocation for this year on this report. So they tell you, hey, you know, our year began a long time ago, but here's what you're actually going to get here at the end of the year if they tell you what you're getting for this year. So for me, it's really helpful because it's got a lot of information that I didn't have before. But it's otherwise just a report of how funds are being spent. If you look through the report, you'll see that we do partner with St. Thomas the Apostle Private School because they are they apply for funding and we give them funding through our agency. We do consult with the other private school in town. They refuse the funding because I think they don't want the strings that go with it.
Any discussion? All right, thank you. Item B, approve summer school principal teacher in charge stipend.
So this is, if you look at the bottom, very bottom of the 2 pages of salary schedule, this adds a stipend for the summer school principal on our administrator salary schedule. This way we're able to pay the stipend for summer school.
And this basically is a daily rate for a step 1 or a new principal, a daily rate for 20 days of service during summer school. And that's how we come to that figure roughly.
Any questions or comments? Okay, this is an action item. So is there a motion on the floor to approve the stipend for summer school principal teacher in charge?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item C, to finalize OCESD's participation in the new BSSP Workers' Compensation Program.
So earlier in the year, I brought to you the idea of leaving North Valley Schools Insurance Group, who does our workers' compensation coverage, and going with NBSIA through, which is the North Bay Schools Insurance Authority. The key reason is if we go through a self-funded JPA like this, we're going to save between 25 and 35% per year on our workers' comp. And that's a pretty big bill. The services are the same or very similar. Employees will see very little difference because the programs that this company buys to provide to our employees, like Company Nurse, for example, if you get hurt at work, there's a poster called Company Nurse. It's the same exact company that they contract with. So our employees aren't really going to see a difference. The big difference will be saving, a third of the workers' comp bill. So in order to do this, we have to join this JPA, which is a Joint Powers Authority, which is effectively a series of districts working together to have their own pool of insurance. And then you have layers of insurance on top of that through other vendors. So there's a slate of 4 resolutions that need to be approved. And once done, we will be officially members of the North Bay Schools Insurance Authority. I will say I've worked with them a little bit so far. And I'm really excited to work with them. They seem like they're really, really hands-on. They want to come and do trainings in person annually. They already are working on setting up a couple of training days for our custodians and maintenance staff. And they have a lot of new and different types of programs that I think will be excited to bring to Oroville City Elementary. And additionally, it costs us, $60,000 to $70,000 less a year. You have any questions?
So it's kind of like a co-op.
Yeah, how we used to do our health insurance and how we still do our dental and vision insurance is through the Butte School self-funded programs, JPA, and this is who's going to be administering this.
Okay.
Where we put all of our money together as a district, and then the JPA pays that off. So your own insurance group, and this is the same type of thing. So the workers' comp would be local for you pay all of your workers' comp money in, and all the claims come out of that money. The North Bay Schools Insurance Authority administers all this, and then on top of that, when there's these kinds of excess claims or different kinds of claims, there's insurance that we buy to cover us on all those different areas. So it's a well-managed JPA, the Butte School Self-Funded Programs is. And the North Bay Schools Insurance Authority is, a large insurance authority, just like NIVSIG was our current insurer. So it's not going to be that much of a difference. It's just a matter of switching horses. But when you're switching horses on something like your workers' comp insurance through a JPA, it's complex and requires four resolutions.
Do you know if other districts are doing this as well?
Many of the districts in Butte County are. Off the top of my head, I know that Gridley and Paradise are. I'm not certain which other districts in total, but I know a lot of the smaller districts are doing it as well. When I know the Butte County Office of Education is not. I'm not sure why. I guess they don't want the money. That's all I can say. I mean, I can't make that argument for them. They had their own reasons. But I know that, like, for example, I know that there's the program that does all the trainings, and BCOE uses that heavily. But this same group contracts with that same company, the exact same software platform. So it's not like it's going to be any different. So I think there was maybe some worries or something for them, but it's the majority of the districts in the county. But I'm not sure. I don't think Chico is involved in it. They might have their own. They're so big, they might have their own pool all by themselves. But for us little guys, it's a good deal.
So you don't see any downsides to this?
I really don't. I tried to, I'm active at BSSP. I'm the vice president. And I've really been trying to pick it apart. I've met with the North Bay Schools Insurance Authority and asked a lot of questions, trying to needle, hey, what's this transition going to look like? What are the timelines? Trying to really put the tires to the road to see how it's actually going to work. And I see it as just a positive. And I think what happens is it's such a complex thing to do, to leave a workers' comp carrier. You get stuck with one and you're just with them.
Yeah.
Right. Even if they're the most expensive insurance group in the entire state, which is what the case is with NIVSIG, it still takes a lot of work to get from there to a competitor.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, so this is an action item to approve the documents listed here, 1 through 4. Is there a motion on the floor to finalize our participation in the new BSSP workers' comp program?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. All right, I believe we're done. We will adjourn the meeting at 6:36. Thank you all for joining us.
Got the
Thank you.
information on the meeting tomorrow, right? Did I send that to you?